She cared for a paralyzed billionaire for 8 years. His first steps were straight into her arms. What if you spent 8 years caring for someone who couldn't walk, and the moment he finally stood up, he walked straight into your arms and confessed he'd done it all for you? Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, we share the most emotional, real-life inspired love stories that'll make you believe in true love again. And for our returning viewers, thank you so much for coming back. Your support means everything. Before we dive into today's incredible story, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. Are you team "she should have quit years ago" or team "love is worth waiting for"? Let us know. Also, comment your country or city. We love seeing our global family. Last video, we had viewers from Nigeria, the Philippines, the UK, and Texas all sharing their thoughts. Let's see where you're all watching from today. Now, grab your tissues, get comfortable, and let's jump into this beautiful, heartbreaking, absolutely unforgettable love story. The therapy room smelled like antiseptic and 8 years of impossible hope. Naomi Baptiste stood exactly 15 feet away, hands trembling at her sides, watching the man she'd cared for through 3,000 days of paralysis prepare to do the impossible. Walk. Callum Ashford gripped the parallel bars so hard his knuckles went white. 38 years old. Dark hair threaded with silver he'd earned through pain, not age. Blue eyes that used to hold easy confidence now held something harder. Something fought for. He'd been Charleston's golden boy once. Billionaire heir to Ashford shipping. Adventure athlete. The kind of man who lived large and loved harder. Then a diving accident in the Caribbean 8 years ago shattered his spine and everything he thought his life would be. Paralyzed from the waist down. Doctors said forever. Doctors said never. For 8 years, Naomi had been there. His private live-in nurse. The woman who'd seen him at his absolute worst. Suicidal, rage-filled, broken in ways that had nothing to do with his spine. The woman who'd fought him back to wanting to live. The woman he loved so desperately it felt like drowning and breathing at the same time. The woman who had absolutely no idea. "You don't have to watch this," Callum said. His voice was rough with exhaustion. 6 months of experimental treatment, surgery, stem cells, nanotechnology, brutal physical therapy that made the accident look easy. All for a maybe. Just a maybe. "Shut up, Callum." Naomi said it the way she always did. Direct. No pity. Never pity. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Dr. Chen Rodriguez, the physical therapist who'd seen miracles and failures in equal measure, positioned himself nearby. "On 3. Remember. Slow, controlled movements. Let your body remember." Behind them, Victoria Ashford clutched her pearls. Callum's mother had aged a decade in 8 years, watching her son fight his way back from the edge. His brother Hayes stood in the doorway, phone already out, probably texting the family attorney or the board of directors or whoever needed to know that the Ashford heir might walk again. But Callum wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Naomi. 35 years old. Brown skin that glowed in Charleston's November morning light. Natural curls pulled back in the practical bun she always wore, professional, capable, untouchable. Dark eyes that held fierce intelligence and a kindness she tried to hide behind competence. Beautiful. God, she was beautiful. Had been since that first day 8 years ago when she'd walked into his room and refused to feel sorry for him. 1. Dr. Rodriguez counted. Callum's hands released the parallel bars. His legs, muscles that hadn't supported his weight in 8 years, nerves that doctors said would never fire again, trembled with the effort of remembering. 2. Every person in that room held their breath. 3. Callum took a step. Then, another. The room exploded. Victoria gasped. Hayes made some sound of shock. Dr. Rodriguez started calling for nurses, for documentation, for witnesses to the medical miracle happening in real time. But Callum only heard his own heartbeat. Only felt the screaming protest of muscles that weren't ready. Only saw Naomi. Her hands were pressed to her mouth. She wasn't crying, Naomi Baptiste didn't cry at work, didn't let emotion crack that professional armor she wore like a shield. But her eyes. God, her eyes. He took another step. The distance between them was everything. 15 feet. 8 years. The space between a billionaire and his employee. Between a man who'd lost everything and the woman who'd helped him find it again. Naomi. Her name came out broken. Callum, stop. Dr. Rodriguez moved forward. You need to rest, you're pushing too hard. No. Another step. His body was shaking. Sweat dripped down his face. Pain radiated through every nerve ending, but he didn't care. 8 years. He'd waited 8 years for this moment. Another step. Naomi moved without thinking. She crossed the distance, meeting him halfway like she'd been doing for 8 years. Meeting him in the middle of his pain, his healing, his slow journey back to himself. When Callum took that final step, when his arms wrapped around her for the first time without a wheelchair between them, when 8 years of professional boundaries and unspoken feelings and everything they'd both been too terrified to say finally collapsed. He whispered against her hair. I did it for you. She stopped breathing. Callum. Her voice cracked. She was shaking in his arms. Or maybe he was shaking. Maybe they both were. Behind them, Victoria was crying. Hayes was already on the phone with someone. Dr. Rodriguez was calling for his team. The medical miracle of the decade was happening, and cameras would arrive soon, and the world would want to know how Callum Ashford walked again. But Callum only felt Naomi. The coconut oil she used in her hair. The way she fit against him like she'd been designed for this exact moment. The trembling in her hands as they gripped his shirt like she was afraid he'd fall. I need you to listen, he said quietly, just for her. Because I've been waiting 8 years to tell you this, and I'm not waiting anymore. You're going to fall, she tried. Then catch me. He pulled back just enough to look at her. You've been catching me for 8 years. What's one more time? Her eyes were wide. Stunned. Something else. Hope, maybe. Fear, definitely. I love you, Callum said. Simple. Clear. 8 years of want and need and desperate longing compressed into 3 words. I've loved you since year 2. Maybe since day 1. I took the experimental treatment for you. I did 6 months of hell for you. I learned to walk again because I couldn't spend one more day sitting down while you stood there giving everything to me and getting nothing back. Callum, tears finally spilled over. She was crying. Naomi Baptiste, who never cried, was crying. I know I'm your employer, he continued, the words spilling out like he'd been holding them back too long. I know there's a power dynamic. I know I'm asking you to risk everything. But I need you to know, this isn't about the job. This isn't about gratitude or proximity or 8 years of you being the only person in my life. This is about the fact that you're the strongest, most beautiful, most frustratingly stubborn woman I've ever met, and I want to spend the rest of my life standing beside you. Actually standing. Like this. She was shaking her head. But she hadn't let go of him. I can't, she whispered. You're my patient. You're a billionaire. I'm your employee. This is everything, Callum said. And I know you feel it too. The room around them faded. 8 years of professionalism. 8 years of boundaries. 8 years of wanting something neither of them could name. Until now. Tell me I'm wrong, Callum said softly. Tell me you don't feel this, and I'll never bring it up again. We'll go back to nurse and patient. Employer and employee. I'll find someone appropriate, like my mother keeps saying. And you can quit and live your life without this impossible situation. Just tell me I'm wrong. Naomi looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who'd gone from wanting to die to fighting 6 months of brutal experimental treatment. At the man who'd just taken his first steps in 8 years and walked straight to her. At the man she'd loved for longer than she wanted to admit. You're not wrong, she whispered. The world stopped. But that doesn't mean, she pulled back, putting professional distance between them even though everything in her screamed to stay. Callum, this is complicated. Your family. The job. What people will think. I can't. Mr. Ashford. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, professional concern overriding the emotional moment. You need to sit down. Now. You've pushed way beyond what we discussed. Callum's legs were shaking violently. The adrenaline was wearing off. Reality was setting in. He'd just walked for the first time in 8 years, and his body was done. Naomi immediately shifted into nurse mode. She guided him to the wheelchair that Hayes had rushed over, supporting his weight with practiced ease. Professional. Capable. Back to being his caregiver like the last 3 minutes hadn't just changed everything. Vitals, she said crisply to Dr. Rodriguez. Heart rate, blood pressure. Check for muscle tears or nerve damage from overexertion. I'm fine, Callum said. You're an idiot, Naomi corrected. You just walked 15 feet on legs that haven't worked in 8 years. You're getting checked, and then you're resting. Victoria rushed over. Callum, darling, that was incredible. I need to call everyone, the board, the doctors, the... Mother, please. Callum's voice was tired. Can we have 5 minutes before you turn this into a media circus? Victoria's face tightened. But she nodded. Of course. Hayes, come with me. Let's give them space. Hayes lingered. That was insane, man. Seriously. You just... He shook his head, grinning. Welcome back. Then they were gone. Just Naomi, Callum, and Dr. Rodriguez checking readings on various monitors. Everything looks good, Dr. Rodriguez said after a moment. Elevated heart rate, but that's expected. No signs of damage. You got lucky, Callum. But don't do that again. We increased distance gradually, remember? I remember, Callum said. He was staring at Naomi. Dr. Rodriguez caught the look. Cleared his throat. I'll give you 2 a moment. But seriously, rest. We'll do a proper session this afternoon. Controlled. Safe. He left. Silence. Naomi checked Callum's blood pressure again. Adjusted the wheelchair. Did everything except look at him. Naomi. Your pressure's high. You need water and rest. Naomi, look at me. She did. Finally. Those dark eyes were guarded now. Professional mask back in place. I meant what I said, Callum told her. Every word. I know. She swallowed hard. But we need to think about this. Really think. Not just... She gestured vaguely. Not just in the moment when emotions are high. I've had 8 years to think. And I've had 8 years to know this could never work. She moved away, putting physical distance between them. You're Callum Ashford. Heir to a shipping empire. Charleston royalty. I'm the help, Callum. That's what your mother's friends call me when they don't think I can hear. The nurse. The hired staff. I don't care what they call you. But I do. The words burst out. I care because I've spent 8 years in this house, in this world that's not mine, watching your mother's society friends look at me like I'm invisible. Watching your brother question every medical decision I make because surely the black nurse from North Charleston can't know better than the white doctors from MUSC. Callum's jaw tightened. Hayes never. He does. Constantly. Politely. Naomi's voice was steady, but there was pain underneath. And your mother has never once invited me to sit at the dinner table. I eat in my room. Alone. Because I'm staff. Then quit, Callum said. Quit and be with me. Not as my nurse. As what? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your girlfriend? The woman you're dating? How does that work, Callum? Do I move out? Get my own place? Except I can't afford Charleston rent on a normal nursing salary, and taking money from you would make me exactly what they'd call me, a gold digger who spent 8 years positioning herself. No one would think that. Everyone would think that. She turned to face him fully. I've been living in your house for 8 years. Alone with you, mostly. Do you know what the nursing community already whispers? I lost friends over this job. People think I'm sleeping with you for the money. That hit him. She could see it in his face. I didn't know, he said quietly. I never told you. Naomi's voice softened. Because it was my problem, not yours. But Callum, if we do this, if we cross this line, it stops being whispers. It becomes fact in their minds. And her voice cracked. I can't lose my reputation. It's all I have. My career. My integrity. If people think I compromised patient care for... You're the best nurse I've ever had, Callum interrupted. The best person I've ever known. Anyone who questions your professionalism is an idiot. But they will question it. They already do. She wrapped her arms around herself. And maybe they're right. Maybe I did compromise. Because somewhere around year 5, I stopped seeing you as just a patient. And I should have quit then. Should have walked away before it got complicated. Why didn't you? The question hung between them. Naomi looked at him. Really looked. At the man who'd transformed from a suicidal broken shell into someone who fought 6 months of experimental hell just to stand. At the man who made her laugh during difficult exercises. At the man who asked about her day and actually listened. At the man who saw her, really saw her, in a way no one else ever had. Because I fell in love with you, she whispered. Somewhere between year 2 and year 3, I fell completely in love with you. And I didn't know how to leave. Callum's breath caught. But love isn't enough, Naomi continued. Love doesn't change the reality of our situation. You're my employer. I'm your employee. There are laws about this, ethics. And even if we navigate all that, there's still your family, society, the fact that I'll never fit into your world. I don't care about my world, Callum said. I care about you. But your world cares about you. Your mother. Hayes. The company. The board of directors who'll want you back now that you can walk. You have responsibilities, Callum. Legacy. Things I can't be part of. Says who? Says reality. She was getting frustrated now. I've watched you for 8 years. I know what your life was before the accident. Galas and business dinners and charity events. Dates with debutantes and daughters of business partners. That's your world. I don't belong there. I don't want that world anymore. Callum rolled the wheelchair closer. 8 years ago, I would have agreed with you. 8 years ago, I cared about appearances and expectations and living up to the Ashford name. But that man died in the Caribbean. The man you helped build back, he doesn't care about any of that. But you should. Naomi's voice was gentle now. Callum, you just walked for the first time in 8 years. You have a second chance at the life you lost. You could go back to everything. Travel, adventure, all of it. Why would you want to complicate that with the only woman I've ever truly loved? He reached for her hand. She let him take it. Naomi, I didn't walk again to go back to my old life. I walked again to finally have a chance at a new one. With you. She stared at their joined hands. His pale skin against her brown. The physical representation of everything complicated between them. I need time, she said finally. To think. To figure out if this is even possible. How much time? I don't know. She pulled her hand back gently. But right now, you need rest. And I need space. Can you give me that? It killed him. She could see it. But he nodded. Take all the time you need, he said. I've waited 8 years. I can wait a little longer. Naomi left the therapy room, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. 8 years. 8 years of professionalism. 8 years of boundaries. gone in 15 steps. Naomi Baptiste parked her 10-year-old Honda in front of the Ashford estate and tried not to feel completely out of her depth. She failed spectacularly. The mansion sat on Charleston's Battery like it owned the entire waterfront. Historic. Enormous. The kind of house that appeared in magazines about Southern elegance and old money wealth. Wrought iron gates. Manicured gardens that probably cost more to maintain than her yearly salary. A view of Fort Sumter in the distance like a postcard. She'd grown up in a 2-bedroom apartment in North Charleston. Her mother had cleaned houses exactly like this one. Now she was about to work in one. 27 years old, nursing degree barely 2 years old, and she'd taken a private care position out of pure desperation. Student loans. Her mother's medical bills, 2 years gone, and the debt still crushed her. The Ashford family was paying triple the normal rate for a live-in nurse. She needed the money. Simple as that. Ms. Baptiste. A woman in her 60s answered the door. Elegant. Cold. Perfectly styled gray hair and pearls that probably cost more than Naomi's car. I'm Victoria Ashford. Callum's mother. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity. Naomi extended her hand. Professional. Capable. Everything she'd practiced in the mirror. Victoria looked at her hand like it confused her. Then shook it briefly, limply, like touching was an obligation rather than a greeting. You come highly recommended, Victoria said, leading her through marble hallways. 3 previous families spoke very highly of your work ethic and discretion. Translation: You've proven yourself safe with rich white people. Naomi had heard it before. It never stopped stinging. Original artwork lined the walls. The kind Naomi had only seen in museums. Crystal chandeliers caught afternoon sunlight. Everything screamed wealth so old and established it didn't need to announce itself. I need to be frank with you, Ms. Baptiste. Victoria stopped outside a closed door. Her composure cracked slightly. Just enough to show the terrified mother underneath the society polish. My son has been through 11 nurses in 6 months. He's difficult. Difficult. Naomi had heard that word before too. It usually meant grief-stricken, angry, terrified. People in pain lashed out. She understood that better than most. I can handle difficult, Naomi said calmly. He doesn't want to live. Victoria's voice dropped to almost a whisper. The accident was 6 months ago. Diving in the Caribbean. His spine. She stopped. Composed herself. He was 30 years old. Athletic. He had everything ahead of him. And now he sits in that room and waits to die. Naomi's heart ached despite her professional distance. May I meet him? She asked gently. Victoria nodded. Knocked once on the door. Didn't wait for an answer before opening it. The room was dark. Heavy curtains blocked Charleston's beautiful autumn sunlight. It smelled stale, like someone had given up on fresh air, on trying, on everything. Callum Ashford sat in a wheelchair by the window, staring at nothing. Naomi had Googled him, obviously. Everyone had. Charleston's golden boy. The photos showed dark hair, blue eyes, the kind of smile that made cameras fall in love. Adventure athlete, amateur pilot, heir to a shipping fortune. He'd been featured in business magazines and society pages. Engaged once years ago, broke it off. Too much life to live, the gossip sites had said. The man in the wheelchair looked like a ghost of those photos. Thinner. Pale. Dark circles carved under his eyes. Unshaven. Hair too long and unkempt. The expensive athletic build was still there. Upper body strong from months of physical therapy, but everything else screamed defeat. Callum, this is Naomi Baptiste. Your new nurse. He didn't look at her. How long before she quits? His voice was flat. Dead. I give it 3 days. Maybe 2 if I'm really unpleasant. Victoria flinched. Mr. Ashford, Naomi started. Don't. He finally turned his head. Blue eyes that held nothing but exhausted rage and pain so deep it had its own gravity. Don't do the compassionate nurse routine. Don't tell me it gets better. Don't act like you understand what it's like to have your entire life stolen in 30 seconds. Just do your job until you can't stand me anymore, then leave like all the others. The words should have hurt. Should have made her defensive. Instead, Naomi walked into the room and opened the curtains. Bright November sunlight flooded in. Charleston's waterfront sparkled in the distance. Callum made a sound of disgust and shielded his eyes. "Here's the deal," Naomi said, turning to face him. Her voice was calm, professional, but there was steel underneath. "I'm here to do a job. You're right, I don't understand what you're going through. I've never been paralyzed. Never had my body betray me like yours did." She moved closer. "But I have watched someone I love die slowly," she continued. "I held my mother's hand while breast cancer ate her alive. I spent 2 years watching her fight and lose. So I know what it's like to feel helpless. I know what it's like to be angry at God and fate and every unfair thing about life." Something shifted in Callum's expression. Brief. Quickly hidden behind his defensive walls. "I'm not here to be your friend," Naomi said clearly. "I'm not here to fix you or inspire you or whatever else you think nurses are supposed to do. I'm here to manage your medical care, help you with physical therapy, and keep you alive. That's it." "Sounds thrilling," Callum said sarcastically. "Probably not," Naomi agreed. "But here's what I need you to understand. I need this job. Student loans. Medical debt from my mother's treatment. I can't afford to quit just because you hurt my feelings or test my patience. So congratulations, you're stuck with me." Silence filled the room. Victoria stared at Naomi like she'd grown a second head. Callum's jaw tightened. "You think you're different from the others?" "No," Naomi said honestly. "I think I'm more desperate than they were. They could afford to quit. I can't. So whether you like it or not, I'm staying." For the first time in 6 months, something flickered in Callum Ashford's eyes. Not hope. Not yet. But maybe curiosity. Maybe respect. "My therapy schedule starts at 9 tomorrow," he said. His voice was still flat. Still defeated. But something underneath had shifted. "I'll be ready," Naomi said. "And Ms. Baptiste?" Callum's eyes met hers fully. "I really will try to make you quit." "I know," Naomi said. "You can try." She saw it then. The briefest twitch of his mouth. Almost a smile. Gone as quickly as it appeared. But it had been there. Victoria showed Naomi to her room, a guest suite on the 2nd floor that was bigger than her entire apartment. Hardwood floors. Crown molding. A 4-poster bed with sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Private bathroom with a clawfoot tub. A view of the gardens that looked like something from a magazine. "The family takes dinner at 7, Victoria said. "Staff meals are prepared separately and can be taken in your room or the kitchen." Staff. The word hung in the air. "Your duties begin tomorrow at 8, Victoria continued. "Callum's schedule is posted on the medical chart outside his door. Physical therapy, medications, personal care. Hayes, Callum's brother, will stop by periodically to check on things." Translation: "We'll be watching you." "I understand," Naomi said. "Thank you for being direct with him," Victoria added quietly. "The others tried to coddle him. He hated it." "I won't coddle him," Naomi said. "But I also won't let him give up." Victoria nodded. Something like relief crossed her face. Then she left. Naomi sat on the expensive bed, soft, luxurious, nothing like the lumpy mattress she'd been sleeping on, and let herself feel the weight of this decision. 8 hours from everyone who looked like her. In a mansion that represented everything her mother had cleaned but never owned. Working for a man so broken he was trying to make her quit before she even started. She pulled out her phone. Texted her best friend Sienna, Started today. He's exactly as miserable as advertised. Sienna replied immediately, "You got this, babe. Also that paycheck is gonna be nice. Don't let some rich white boy make you quit." Naomi smiled despite herself. Then she unpacked. Professional scrubs. Comfortable shoes. The small framed photo of her mother she took everywhere, before the cancer, when she still smiled easily and believed in miracles. "I'm doing this for you, Ma," Naomi whispered to the photo. "Paying off what we couldn't. Making something of that degree you sacrificed everything for." Her mother smiled back, frozen in time, forever healthy in that moment. Naomi didn't believe in miracles anymore. Cancer had beaten that out of her. She believed in work. In showing up. In doing the job even when it was impossibly hard. She had no idea she'd just met the man she'd spend 8 years fighting for. The man who would change absolutely everything. The next morning came too early. Naomi dressed in professional scrubs, pulled her natural curls into a practical bun, and made her way to Callum's room at exactly 8 a.m. She knocked. "It's open," came the flat voice. The room was dark again. Curtains drawn. Like the sunlight from yesterday had been a temporary intrusion. Callum sat in his wheelchair in the same position, staring at nothing. "Good morning," Naomi said. She opened the curtains again. "I didn't ask you to do that." "I know." She checked the medical chart. "Physical therapy starts in an hour. Before that, I need to check your vitals and review your medication schedule." "I don't want therapy today." "That's fine," Naomi said calmly, pulling out her blood pressure cuff. "You'll do it anyway." His eyes narrowed. "You can't force me." "You're right. I can't." She wrapped the cuff around his arm. "But your insurance requires documented therapy sessions to continue coverage. If you refuse, that's your choice. But the financial and medical consequences are yours to handle." She said it matter-of-factly. No judgment. Just reality. Callum's jaw tightened. But he didn't argue. His blood pressure was high. Not dangerously so, but elevated. "When's the last time you slept through the night?" Naomi asked, making notes. "I don't know. June maybe. 5 months. Before the accident." "Pain or insomnia?" "Both." "Neither." "Does it matter?" "Yes," Naomi said. "Chronic sleep deprivation affects healing, mood, cognitive function. We need to address it. Add it to the list of things that are broken." Naomi set down her chart and looked at him directly. "Mr. Ashford." "Callum," he interrupted. "If you're going to be here every day, invading my space, forcing me to do things I don't want to do, you might as well use my first name." "Callum," Naomi corrected. "I know you don't want to be here. I know you didn't choose this. But you are here. And what happens next? How much you heal, how much function you regain, whether you spend the rest of your life in pain or find some measure of comfort, a lot of that depends on choices you make now." "Inspiring speech," Callum said sarcastically. "Did they teach you that in nursing school?" "No," Naomi said. "My mother taught me that. When she was dying and had every reason to give up, but kept fighting anyway. Not because she thought she'd win, but because the fight itself mattered." Callum's sarcasm faltered. "I'm sorry about your mother." "Thank you." Naomi picked up the chart again. "Now let's talk about your sleep medication. And then we're going to therapy whether you like it or not." For the first time, Callum actually smiled. Small. Tired. But real. "You're stubborn," he said. "Yes," Naomi agreed. "And you're about to find out just how stubborn." Therapy was hell. Callum gritted his teeth as Naomi guided him through the stretching exercises that hurt like someone was ripping his spine apart all over again. "Breathe through it," she said calmly. Her hands were firm but gentle on his leg, pushing it through the range of motion his body had forgotten how to do. "I am breathing. You're holding your breath and turning purple." That's different. He forced himself to exhale. She was right. She was always right. It was infuriating. 2 months. 8 weeks since Naomi Baptiste had walked into his life and refused to let him wallow. 8 weeks of her showing up every single morning at 8 a.m., opening those damn curtains, checking his vitals with professional efficiency, and dragging him to therapy whether he wanted to go or not. He'd tried everything to make her quit. Week 1, he refused to speak. Just stared at her in hostile silence. She'd worked around him without comment. Checked his vitals. Made notes. Left. Week 2, he was actively rude. Sarcastic. Cutting comments about everything. She'd responded with calm professionalism and occasionally sharp comebacks that made him forget to be miserable for whole seconds at a time. Week 3, he accused her of not knowing what she was doing. Questioned every medical decision. Demanded to speak to real doctors. She'd handed him her nursing credentials, a list of references, and told him to call whoever he wanted. Then she'd continued doing her job. Week 4, he tried pity. Told her she was wasting her time. That he was never getting better. That she should quit and find a patient worth saving. She'd looked him dead in the eye and said, "Your self-pity is boring. Are we doing therapy or not?" By week 8, he'd stopped trying to make her quit. Mostly because he'd realized he didn't want her to. "There," Naomi said, releasing his leg. "That's enough for today. Good work." "It doesn't feel like good work." "That's because you're comparing yourself to 2 months ago when you could walk," Naomi said, making notes on his chart. "Compare yourself to 8 weeks ago when you wouldn't even try these exercises. Progress is progress." She moved around the small therapy room they'd set up in one of the mansion's spare parlors. Professional. Efficient. She'd been living here for 2 months now, and Callum still knew almost nothing about her beyond surface details. She woke up early. He heard her moving around at 6 a.m. She took her meals alone in her room. She talked to someone named Sienna on the phone most evenings. She was unfailingly professional and kept every conversation focused on his care. It was driving him crazy. Not because he wanted her to quit anymore. Because he was curious. About her life. Her thoughts. The things she cared about beyond his medical chart. "Can I ask you something?" Callum said before she could leave. Naomi paused. "Medical question. Personal question." Her guard went up immediately. He could see it in the way her shoulders tensed. "That depends on the question," she said carefully. "Why nursing?" Callum asked. "You're clearly smart enough to do anything. Why choose this?" Naomi was quiet for a moment. Then she set down the chart and turned to face him. "My mother got sick when I was 21, she said. "Breast cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. The nurses who cared for her, they were the only people who treated her like a human being instead of just another dying patient. They saw her. They made her last 2 years bearable." Her voice was steady, but Callum heard the pain underneath. "I wanted to be that for other people," Naomi continued. "Someone who shows up when everything is terrible and makes it slightly less terrible. It's not glamorous. It doesn't pay well. But it matters." "It does matter," Callum said quietly. "You matter." She looked at him, surprised. "I know I've been awful," Callum continued. "The worst patient you've probably ever had. But you keep showing up. You keep pushing me. And he struggled with the words. "I'm not grateful. Not yet. But I'm less angry than I was. That's something." Naomi's expression softened. "That is something. Why do you eat alone?" The question came out before Callum could stop it. Her professional mask slammed back into place. "I'm staff. Your mother explained the household arrangements." "That's bullshit. That's reality." "Then change reality," Callum said, frustrated. "Have dinner with us tonight. As a guest, not staff." "Callum. 1 meal. That's all. My mother won't care. Your mother absolutely will care. Naomi shook her head. I appreciate the offer. But I know my place here. And I'm fine with it. Are you? Callum challenged. Because you look pretty isolated to me. I'm professional. You're lonely. The words hung in the air. Naomi stared at him. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition. Like he'd seen something she thought she'd hidden. My personal life isn't your concern, she said finally. Gently, but firmly. Maybe it should be, Callum said. Why? Naomi's voice was sharper now. Why do you care if I'm lonely? I'm here to do a job, Callum. Not to be your friend. Maybe I want a friend. Then make friends with people in your own life. Your brother. Your mother's friends. Other wealthy people who understand your world. I don't want them, Callum said. I want someone who doesn't treat me like I'm broken. Someone who pushes back when I'm being an ass. Someone who... He stopped. Because what he wanted to say was, someone like you. But that crossed too many lines. Naomi seemed to understand anyway. Her expression softened again. Callum, she said quietly. I'm your nurse. That has to be enough. For both of us. She left before he could respond. That evening, Naomi ate dinner alone in her room like always. Grilled chicken. Roasted vegetables. The food was excellent. The Ashford family employed a private chef, but it tasted like nothing. Her phone buzzed. Sienna. Sienna, how's the rich invalid treating you? Naomi, he asked me to have dinner with the family tonight. Sienna. What did you say? Naomi, I said no. Obviously. Sienna, why obviously? Free fancy meal? Better than eating alone? Naomi, because I'm the help, see. They don't want me at their table. And even if Callum does, his mother definitely doesn't. Sienna, he's been there 2 months and you're still calling him by his first name like that's scandalous? Girl. Naomi, he insisted. Sienna, aha. And how's he looking these days? Naomi, he's my patient. Sienna, that's not what I asked. Naomi stared at her phone. Then typed, he's getting stronger. Less angry. More like the person he probably was before the accident. Sienna, still hot? Naomi, Sienna. Sienna, I'm just saying. You're spending like 12 hours a day with a rich, good-looking white boy who clearly likes you. Don't catch feelings. Naomi, I'm not catching feelings. I'm doing my job. Sienna, just remember, you're there for the paycheck. Not for him. Naomi, I know. But as she set down her phone and stared at her half-eaten dinner, Naomi wondered if she was lying. Because somewhere in the last 8 weeks, Callum Ashford had stopped being just a patient. He'd become a person she looked forward to seeing. Someone whose progress genuinely mattered to her beyond professional obligation. Someone whose rare smiles made her entire day feel worthwhile. And that was dangerous. So dangerous. Downstairs, Callum sat at the family dining table, pushing food around his plate. You're not eating, Victoria observed. Are you feeling all right? I'm fine. Hayes, home from the Ashford shipping offices, raised an eyebrow. You've been weird all week. What's going on? Nothing. Is it the new nurse? Victoria asked. If she's not working out. She's fine, Callum said quickly. She's good. Really good, actually. Victoria and Hayes exchanged a look. Good how? Hayes asked carefully. She knows what she's doing. She pushes me without being overbearing. She treats me like a person, not a tragedy. Callum set down his fork. I asked her to have dinner with us tonight. Silence. Callum, Victoria said slowly. That's inappropriate. Why? She lives here. She eats alone every night. It's ridiculous. She's staff, Victoria said firmly. There are boundaries. Boundaries you created, Callum shot back. Boundaries that exist for good reason. Victoria's voice was sharp. You're vulnerable right now. Dependent. It would be very easy to confuse gratitude with. With what, mother? With actually caring about someone as a human being. With developing inappropriate attachment, Victoria finished. She's your employee, Callum. You're in a position of power over her. Acting on any feelings would be completely unethical. Callum's jaw tightened. I'm not acting on anything. I just don't think she should eat alone. She's being paid very well to be here, Hayes added, trying to diffuse the tension. I'm sure she's fine. You don't know that. And you do. Hayes challenged gently. Callum, Mom's right. You're spending a lot of time with her. That's inevitable, given the circumstances. But you need to be careful. For her sake as much as yours. Callum hated that they were right. He hated the power imbalance. Hated that Naomi was his employee. Hated that any friendship they might develop would be questioned and scrutinized. But mostly he hated eating dinner in this massive dining room surrounded by family who looked at him with pity, while Naomi ate alone upstairs. I'm tired, Callum said, pushing back from the table. I'm going to my room. As he wheeled himself away, he heard his mother sigh. He's getting attached, Victoria said quietly to Hayes. I know, Hayes replied. What do we do about it? Callum didn't hear the answer. But he knew what he needed to do. Stop thinking about Naomi as anything other than his nurse. Stop noticing how her eyes lit up when he made progress. Stop caring whether she was lonely. Stop wanting more than professional distance. It should be easy. It wasn't. 2 years. Naomi checked the calendar and realized with a start that she'd been living in the Ashford estate for exactly 2 years. 730 days of opening Callum's curtains. Of physical therapy sessions that graduated from basic stretches to complex strength training. Of watching him transform from a man who wanted to die into someone who was fighting to live. He still couldn't walk. The paralysis was permanent, every doctor confirmed it. But Callum had regained significant upper body strength, better pain management, improved daily function. And somewhere along the way, professional distance had become impossible to maintain. I hate this exercise, Callum grunted, working through resistance band pulls. I know. Then why do you make me do it? Because you hate being weak more than you hate the exercise, Naomi said, watching his form. 15 more. He was 29 now. Wait, no. 32. The accident had been at 30. 2 years meant 32. Naomi did the math automatically, a habit from years of calculating medication dosages and therapy progressions. She was 29. Still young, technically. But she felt older. 2 years in this mansion, in this job, in this strange limbo between staff and something undefined. Done, Callum said, dropping the bands. Sweat dripped down his face. His hair was shorter now, better groomed. He'd started caring about his appearance again around month 10. Small victories. Good work. Naomi handed him water. Same time tomorrow. Wait. Callum's hand caught her wrist. Gentle. But there. Can we talk? Naomi's heart rate kicked up. Physical contact was part of therapy. Necessary, professional. But this was different. About your treatment plan, she asked, keeping her voice neutral. About the fact that we've worked together for 2 years and I still don't know anything about you. You know plenty. I'm your nurse. That's a job title, not a person. Callum's blue eyes were serious. Come on, Naomi. 2 years. Can we be honest? About what? About the fact that you're not just my nurse anymore. You're. He struggled for words. You're the only person I talk to. Really talk to. And I think maybe I'm the only person you talk to too. Naomi pulled her wrist away gently. That's not true. I have friends. Sienna, who you talk to on the phone because you never leave this house except for your 1 day off per week. That's dramatic. It's true. Callum wheeled closer. When's the last time you did something for yourself? Went somewhere you wanted to go? Had a life outside of this job? I have a life. Do you? His voice was gentle, not accusatory. Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent 2 years taking care of me and forgetting to take care of yourself. The words hit harder than they should have. Because he was right. 2 years of waking up in this mansion. Eating meals alone. Managing Callum's care. Going to her room at night. Repeat. Her day off was usually spent sleeping or doing laundry or calling Sienna. She hadn't dated. Hadn't gone out. Had barely existed outside of this job. That was my choice, Naomi said quietly. Was it? Callum asked. Or did you fall into the same trap I did? Letting the accident define everything? Except for you, it's my accident defining your life. Callum, I want you to take a vacation, he said suddenly. Naomi blinked. What? A vacation? A week? Go somewhere? Anywhere? On me? Absolutely not. Why not? Because I don't take money from you beyond my salary, Naomi said firmly. We've discussed this. Then take unpaid leave. I'll be fine for a week. You need consistent care. My mother can hire a temporary nurse. That's ridiculous. What's ridiculous is that you haven't left Charleston in 2 years, Callum said, frustrated. Naomi, you're 29 years old. You should be living, not just existing around my schedule. This is my job. This is your prison. The words burst out. Then Callum stopped, took a breath. Softer. I don't want to be the reason you don't have a life. You're not, Naomi insisted. Then prove it. Take a week. Go see Sienna. Visit family. Do something that's just for you. Naomi wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that she didn't mind. That this job paid well and mattered and was enough. But standing there in the therapy room, looking at Callum's genuinely concerned expression, she realized he was right. When had she stopped living? I'll think about it, she said finally. That's all I ask. Callum smiled. The real smile she only saw occasionally. The one that reminded her of the man he used to be in those magazine photos. It made her chest hurt in ways that had nothing to do with professional boundaries. That night, Naomi called Sienna. He wants me to take a vacation, Naomi said without preamble. Who? Your rich patient. His name is Callum. Ooh, Callum now? Girl, you're in deep. I'm not in anything. He's concerned that I work too much. He's right, Sienna said bluntly. When's the last time I saw you in person? Christmas. And that was for like 4 hours because you had to get back. I have responsibilities. You have an obsession. With that job. With him. It's not like that. Naomi. Sienna's voice softened. I love you. So I'm gonna say this with love. You've disappeared into that white boy's life. You don't date. You don't go out. You barely exist outside of being his nurse. That's not healthy. I'm helping him. At what cost? The question sat heavy. Come visit me, Sienna pressed. 1 week. Atlanta. We'll go out. Dance. Remember what fun feels like. When's the last time you danced? Naomi couldn't remember. Let me talk to Victoria, she said finally. About hiring temporary coverage. Sienna squealed. Yes. Okay, I'm already planning outfits. We're going to have the best time. As Sienna chattered about plans, Naomi felt something unfold in her chest. Anticipation? Excitement? Fear, maybe. Because leaving meant admitting that Callum would be fine without her. And somewhere in the last 2 years, she'd started to need this job more than it needed her. The next morning, Naomi approached Victoria in the sitting room. "Mrs. Ashford, may I speak with you?" Victoria looked up from her tea. "Of course. Is everything all right with Callum?" "He's fine. Making good progress, actually." Naomi clasped her hands professionally. "I'd like to request a week of leave. Unpaid. I can help arrange temporary nursing coverage." "That won't be necessary," Victoria interrupted. "You're entitled to vacation time. It's in your contract." Naomi blinked. "I didn't think that we'd honor it." Victoria's smile was tight. "Ms. Baptiste, you've been exemplary. Callum has improved more under your care than I thought possible. Take your vacation. Paid. You've earned it." "Thank you." As Naomi turned to leave, Victoria added, "He cares about you, you know." Naomi froze. "Mrs. Ashford." "I'm not blind," Victoria continued, setting down her tea. "I've watched him these past 2 years. How he lights up when you enter the room. How he works harder in therapy to impress you. How he asks about your day like it matters to him." Naomi's heart was pounding. "I would never," she started. "I know," Victoria said. "You've been nothing but professional. That's why I'm telling you this. Because Callum is vulnerable. He's dependent on you in ways that complicate any friendship you might develop." "I understand." "Do you?" Victoria's gaze was sharp. "Because from where I sit, you're just as invested in him as he is in you. And that worries me. I'm his nurse. You're more than that. To him, certainly. Perhaps to yourself as well." The words hung between them. "Take your vacation," Victoria said finally. "Get some distance. Perspective. Remember who you are outside of this house." Naomi nodded. Left. Her hands were shaking. Because Victoria was right. Somewhere in 2 years of opening curtains and managing therapy and sharing small conversations, Naomi had stopped being just his nurse. She'd become someone who cared. Deeply. Dangerously. And a week away might show her just how dangerous that had become. Naomi had forgotten what freedom felt like. Sienna's apartment was small, vibrant, full of life. Music played constantly. Friends stopped by randomly. Laughter filled the space in ways the Ashford estate never did. "Okay, tonight we're going out," Sienna announced on day 3. "Real club. Real dancing. Real men who are not paralyzed billionaires you're professionally obligated to care for." "I don't want to meet men." "Girl, you don't want to admit you want to meet men. There's a difference." They went out. A club in Midtown, loud music, crowded dance floor, the kind of environment Naomi hadn't experienced in years. She wore a dress Sienna lent her. Heels she'd forgotten she owned. Her natural curls loose instead of pulled back in a professional bun. She felt like a different person. "You're glowing," a man said, approaching her at the bar. 30-something. Handsome. Confident. "I'm Marcus." "Naomi." They danced. He was a good dancer. Made her laugh. Bought her drinks. Asked for her number. She gave it to him without thinking. Later, in Sienna's apartment, slightly drunk and definitely exhausted, Naomi stared at her phone. 3 missed calls. All from the Ashford estate. Her heart dropped. She called back immediately. It was 2 a.m., but suddenly she was wide awake. "Ms. Baptiste." Victoria answered on the first ring. "Thank God. Callum's asking for you. Is he okay?" "What happened?" "He's fine. Physically. But he's refusing to work with the temporary nurse. Won't do therapy. Barely eating. He just keeps saying he needs to talk to you." Guilt crashed over her. "I'm sorry," Naomi said. "I'll call him." "Thank you." Naomi hung up. Stared at her phone. Then she called Callum's personal number, the one she only used for emergencies. He answered immediately. Naomi. Hey. Your mother said you called. Yeah. His voice sounded rough. Tired. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. You're on vacation. What's wrong? Silence. Then, I miss you. The words hit her chest like a physical blow. Callum. I know. I know that's not fair. You're allowed to have a life. But these past 3 days without you here, I realized something. He took a shaky breath. You're not just my nurse, Naomi. You're my best friend. And I don't know how to be in this house without you. Naomi closed her eyes. She was standing on Sienna's balcony, Atlanta's skyline glittering in front of her, and all she could think about was Charleston. The Ashford estate. Callum. You're supposed to be okay without me, she whispered. I know. But I'm not. That's not healthy, Callum. I know that too. He laughed without humor. Believe me, I've been thinking about it non-stop. How pathetic it is that I can't go 4 days without falling apart just because my nurse is on vacation. You're not pathetic. Then what am I? His voice cracked. Because from here, it feels pretty pathetic. Naomi didn't know what to say. How's Atlanta? Callum asked, changing the subject. Are you having fun? Yeah. Sienna's been showing me around. We went out tonight. Dancing. Good. That's good. You should dance. You should do normal 29-year-old things. Callum. I mean it. You deserve a life outside of taking care of me. He stopped. I just wanted to hear your voice. That's all. I'll let you go. Wait. Naomi pressed the phone closer. Are you doing your exercises? Naomi, you're on vacation. Are you? A pause. No. Callum. The temporary nurse doesn't do them right. She's too gentle. You push me. She treats me like I'm fragile. You are fragile. Spinal cord injuries require. I need you. The words came out raw. Not another nurse. You. Sienna appeared in the doorway behind Naomi, mouthing, hang up. Now. But Naomi couldn't. I'll be back in 4 days, she said quietly. Can you hold on until then? Yeah, of course. I'm sorry I called. This was selfish. It's okay. No, it's not. You were right earlier. This isn't healthy. Whatever this is. I know. When you get back, Callum said slowly, we need to talk. About boundaries. About what's professional and what's not. Because I don't think we've been professional for a while now. Naomi's throat tightened. No. We haven't. I'll see you in 4 days. 4 days. She hung up. Sienna was staring at her. Girl. What the hell was that? He's struggling without me there. Because he's dependent on you. Emotionally dependent. You hear how unhealthy that is, right? I know. Do you? Sienna crossed her arms. Because from where I'm standing, you just spent your entire night out thinking about him. You met a great guy. Marcus seemed really into you, and you gave him your number like you were going through the motions. Then the second Charleston calls, you light up like someone plugged you in. That's not. It is. Sienna interrupted gently. Naomi, you're in love with him. The words hung in the air. I'm not. Naomi said automatically. You are. And he's in love with you. And you're both pretending it's professional when it stopped being professional months ago. He's my patient. He's a man who's in love with his nurse. And you're a woman who's in love with her patient. And neither of you knows how to deal with it. Naomi sank into a chair. What do I do? Honestly. Sienna sat beside her. I think you need to quit. I can't. You can. And you should. Before this gets even more complicated. Before you waste more years of your life in that mansion waiting for something that can't happen. You don't understand. He needs me. He needs a nurse. Not specifically you. And the fact that he thinks he needs specifically you, that's the problem. Naomi knew Sienna was right. But sitting there in Atlanta, thinking about Callum alone in Charleston, struggling through therapy with someone who wasn't her, she also knew she wasn't ready to leave. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Naomi's Honda pulled up to the Ashford estate just before sunset. 7 days away. It felt like months. She barely made it through the front door before Callum appeared. He'd wheeled himself to the entrance hall. Looking better than the temporary nurse had described. Showered, dressed, alert. But his eyes when they found hers. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. "You're back," he said. "I'm back." They stared at each other. Victoria and Hayes were somewhere in the house, but in that moment, it felt like they were alone. "We need to talk," Callum said. "I know. Not here. Tomorrow. After therapy. Just us." Naomi nodded. Because Sienna was right. Victoria was right. They both knew it. This, whatever this was, couldn't continue the way it had been. Something had to change. The next day, after therapy, they sat in the garden. Charleston's summer heat made everything feel thick, heavy. Like the air itself was waiting. "I thought a lot while you were gone," Callum started. "About what Victoria said. About me being dependent on you. About professional boundaries." Naomi waited. "She's right," Callum continued. "This isn't normal. The way I need you, it's not just nurse and patient. It hasn't been for a long time. I know. So what do we do about it?" He turned to look at her. "Really look. Because I have two choices. I can accept that what I feel for you is inappropriate and try to rebuild professional distance. Or..." He stopped. "Or..." Naomi prompted, her heart racing. "Or I can be honest. Tell you that somewhere in the last 2 years, you became the most important person in my life. That I don't just depend on you professionally, I care about you in ways that have nothing to do with you being my nurse. That when you were gone, I realized I don't want to live in a world where you're not part of my everyday." Naomi's breath caught. "But that's selfish," Callum said quickly. "Because you're my employee. I'm your patient. There's a power imbalance that makes any relationship beyond professional completely inappropriate. So I'm asking you, what do you want to do?" Naomi looked at him. At the man who'd transformed from suicidal to someone fighting to live. At the person who knew her better than anyone. At the blue eyes that saw her, really saw her, in ways no one else ever had. "I don't know," she whispered honestly. "That's okay." Callum's voice was gentle. "We don't have to figure it out today. But Naomi, I need you to know. Whatever you decide, I support it. If you want to leave, find a job where the boundaries are clearer, I understand. If you want to stay and try to rebuild professional distance, we'll do that. But I needed you to know the truth." "What truth?" "That I'm in love with you." The words came out simple, clear. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe that first day when you opened the curtains and refused to pity me. Maybe month 6 when you made me laugh for the first time. Maybe last week when I realized I couldn't function without hearing your voice. But it happened. And pretending it didn't was making me crazy." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too," she heard herself say. "And I hate that I do. Because you're right, this is impossible. You're my patient. My employer. This can never work." "Maybe not," Callum agreed. "But at least now we're being honest." They sat in silence. The truth between them now. Real. Acknowledged. Impossible. 5 years of loving someone she couldn't have was destroying Naomi slowly from the inside. She stood in the therapy room, watching Callum work through his exercises, and felt the familiar ache that had become her constant companion. 34 years old now. He was 35. 5 years of this careful dance, professional during the day, emotionally intimate in stolen moments, always stopping just short of crossing the line that would change everything. They'd never kissed. Never touched beyond therapy. Never acknowledged the confession from 3 years ago, except in glances that lasted too long and conversations that meant too much. It was torture. "You're quiet today," Callum observed, finishing his set. "Just thinking. About the fact that I'm wasting my life. About the fact that I'm 34 and haven't dated anyone in 5 years. About the fact that I go to sleep every night in a room down the hall from the man I love, knowing I can never have him." "Nothing important," Naomi said. Callum's expression said he didn't believe her. Before he could press, Hayes entered. He'd taken over more of Ashford Shipping's daily operations in the years since the accident, and visited the estate regularly. "Callum, we need to talk. Board meeting tomorrow, they want you to consider coming back. Even in advisory capacity. Not interested. You can't avoid the company forever. It's your legacy." "My legacy is being paralyzed," Callum said flatly. "The board doesn't want me back. They want the heir who could walk. That person doesn't exist anymore." Hayes sighed. Then noticed Naomi. "Could you give us a moment?" It wasn't a request. Naomi nodded. "Left. Because that's what staff did. They disappeared when the family needed privacy. 5 years. Still staff. Still invisible. Not for vacation. For good. She'd made the decision 3 days ago. Applied to positions in Atlanta. Near Siena. Away from Charleston. Away from this impossible situation. One had responded. A hospice facility. Good pay. Benefits. A fresh start. She'd accepted. Now she just had to tell Callum. "Naomi." She jumped. Turned. Callum had wheeled to her open doorway. "What are you doing?" His eyes found the suitcase. The packed boxes. "Are you going somewhere?" "I was going to talk to you tomorrow." Naomi's heart was pounding. "But yes. I'm leaving." The color drained from Callum's face. "What?" "I took a position in Atlanta. I start in 2 weeks." "You, what? Why?" "Because I can't do this anymore." The words tumbled out. 5 years of restraint breaking. "I can't spend another day loving you and pretending I don't. I can't watch you from across rooms and maintain professional distance when every part of me wants to cross that distance. I can't keep living in this house, in this limbo, waiting for something that's never going to happen." "Naomi." "I'm 34 years old, Callum. 34. I haven't dated. Haven't had a relationship. Haven't had a life outside of being your nurse for 5 years. And I know that's my choice. I know I could have left earlier. But I kept hoping." Her voice cracked. "I kept hoping things would change. That somehow the impossibility of us would become possible. They could." "No." She cut him off. "They can't. You're a billionaire. I'm your employee. Your family tolerates me. Charleston society whispers about me. And even if none of that mattered, even if we ignored every ethical boundary and power imbalance, what would we be? A patient and his nurse who fell in love? How does that work?" "We figure it out," Callum said desperately. "Together." "Naomi, please don't do this." "I have to." Tears spilled over. "Because staying is killing me. And I think it's killing you too." Callum wheeled closer. "You're right. About all of it. The impossibility. The ethics. The power dynamics. You're right. But Naomi," his voice broke. "I can't lose you. You have to. I love you." "I know. I love you too. That's why I'm leaving." They stared at each other. 5 years of unspoken wanting compressed into this one impossible moment. If I wasn't paralyzed, Callum started. Don't. Naomi's voice was sharp. Don't do that. Your paralysis isn't the problem. The problem is that I'm your employee. That our entire relationship is built on you needing care and me providing it. That's not a foundation for anything healthy. Then let me fire you. Naomi laughed through tears. And then what? We date. How is that different? Everyone would still see me as the nurse who positioned herself. Your mother would never accept it. Society would crucify us both. And you, she moved closer. You deserve someone who fits into your world. Someone appropriate. I don't want appropriate. I want you. You want what you can't have. That's different. The words landed hard. Callum flinched. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's true. Naomi wiped her eyes. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. Your mother is already interviewing replacement nurses. This is happening. And if I ask you to stay, then I'm asking you to let me go. Her voice was gentle now. Sad. Because I can't keep half living like this. I need to find out who I am beyond being your caregiver. And you need to figure out how to exist without me. Callum was crying now too. Silent tears tracking down his face. I don't know how to do this without you, he whispered. You'll learn. Naomi wanted to touch him, to cross the room and hold him. But that would make leaving impossible. You're stronger than you think. What if I'm not? Then you'll figure it out anyway, like you did after the accident. Like you've done for 5 years. Silence. Heavy. Heartbreaking. I'm sorry, Naomi said. For all of it. For falling in love with you. For staying so long. For leaving now. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Callum said roughly. You have nothing to be sorry for. You've given me 5 years. You helped me want to live again. You. His voice broke. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You're the best thing that ever happened to me too, Naomi whispered. That's why I have to go. She turned back to her packing before she could change her mind. Behind her, she heard Callum wheel away. The sound of his chair disappearing down the hall was the loneliest sound she'd ever heard. The moving truck was loaded. Naomi's Honda packed. 5 years compressed into boxes and suitcases. Victoria met her in the entrance hall. Ms. Baptiste. I wanted to speak with you before you left. Here it comes. The relief. Maybe even gratitude that the problem was solving itself. Instead, Victoria's expression was sad. I owe you an apology, Victoria said quietly. I've spent 5 years treating you like staff when you've been so much more. To Callum, certainly. But also to this family. You gave us our son back. And I never properly thanked you. Naomi's throat tightened. I was doing my job. No. You did far more than your job. And I think. Victoria paused. I think I was threatened by that. By how much Callum depends on you. Loves you. Because it meant I was no longer the most important woman in his life. Mrs. Ashford. I'm not asking you to stay, Victoria interrupted. I think you're making the right choice. For both of you. But I wanted you to know, you were never just the help. Not really. It was probably the most honest conversation they'd ever had. Thank you, Naomi said. Will you say goodbye to him? Naomi had been avoiding that. I don't think I can. He's in his room. Please. For 5 years, you've given him honesty. Give him one more honest goodbye. Like that first day 5 years ago. Curtains drawn. Stale air. Grief made physical. You weren't going to say goodbye, he said without turning. I didn't think I could. And now. Your mother guilted me into it. Despite everything, Callum almost smiled. Sounds like her. Naomi moved into the room. Didn't open the curtains this time. Let him have his darkness. I'm leaving now, she said. I know. The new nurse starts tomorrow. Her name is Patricia. She's experienced. Competent. You'll be fine. I know. Silence. Callum, look at me. He turned. Even in the dim light, she could see he'd been crying. I need you to promise me something, Naomi said. Promise me you won't give up. Won't stop therapy. Won't go back to that dark place you were in when we met. I can't promise that. Try. Why? His voice was raw. Give me one reason to keep fighting when the only person who made fighting worthwhile just walked out. Because you're worth fighting for, Naomi said. Even if I'm not here. Even if we never see each other again. Your life matters, Callum. And I need to know that you'll keep living it. I don't want to live it without you. You have to. She crossed the room. Knelt beside his wheelchair. Took his hands. This was the most they'd touched outside of therapy in 5 years. I love you, she said clearly. I will always love you. But love isn't enough to build a life on when everything else is broken. What if we fixed everything else? We can't. She squeezed his hands. So I'm asking you, promise me you'll be okay. Callum looked at her. Really looked. Like he was memorizing every detail for when she was gone. I promise I'll try, he said finally. That's all I can ask. She stood. Let go of his hands. Walked to the door. Naomi. She stopped. Didn't turn. If things were different, Callum's voice was shaking. If I wasn't paralyzed. If you weren't my nurse. If we'd met some other way. Then I would have loved you anyway, Naomi finished. In every version of reality, Callum, I would have loved you. She left before he could respond. Got in her Honda. Drove away from the Ashford estate without looking back. And cried the entire 3-hour drive to Atlanta. 5 years paralyzed. 5 years accepting it was permanent. But there was a new experimental treatment. Risky. Expensive. No guarantees. Dr. Rodriguez had mentioned it months ago. Stem cells. Nanotechnology. Attempting to regenerate nerve pathways doctors said were dead forever. The success rate was less than 15%. The recovery would be brutal. It might kill him. But if there was even a chance, even the smallest possibility, that he could stand on his own 2 feet and go after the woman he loved without the wheelchair between them. He reached for his phone. Dr. Rodriguez? It's Callum Ashford. I want to try the experimental treatment. 3 years. Naomi built a life in Atlanta. A real life. Apartment in Midtown. Job at a hospice facility where she helped patients find peace in their final days. Friends beyond just Sienna. She even dated, nothing serious, but she tried. She tried to forget Callum Ashford. She failed spectacularly. Some nights she'd dream about him. Wonder how he was doing. Whether he'd kept his promise to keep fighting. Whether the new nurse was good to him. Whether he still thought about her. You're doing it again, Sienna said one evening. They were having dinner at Naomi's place, a small 1-bedroom that was hers, truly hers, not a guest room in someone else's mansion. Doing what? That thing where you get quiet and distant and I know you're thinking about Charleston. I wasn't. Liar. Sienna sipped her wine. It's been 3 years, babe. When are you going to let yourself move on? I have moved on. I'm here. I have a life. I'm fine. You're existing. That's different than living. Naomi wanted to argue. Couldn't. Because Sienna was right. 3 years away from Callum, and she still measured her life in before and after. Before Charleston. After leaving. Like those 5 years had defined her so completely that everything else was just aftermath. I saw Marcus last week, Sienna said carefully. You remember Marcus? The guy you met that first week you were here? He asked about you. Sienna. He's single. Successful. Actually interested. And he's not a paralyzed billionaire you used to work for. I'm not ready. You've been saying that for 3 years. Because it's been true for 3 years. Sienna set down her glass. Naomi. Real talk. Do you plan to spend the rest of your life in love with a man you can't have? Because that's what's happening. You're 37 now. Time is passing. And you're letting it pass you by because you're still hung up on what-ifs and impossibilities. I know. Naomi's voice was small. I know you're right. I just what? I don't know how to stop loving him. Then maybe you need closure, Sienna suggested. Call him. Text him. Find out how he's doing. Get concrete proof that he's moved on so you can too. I can't. Why not? Because what if he hasn't moved on? The fear spilled out. What if he's just as stuck as I am? What does that change? Nothing. We're still impossible. Still wrong for each other. Knowing he still loves me wouldn't help. It would make everything worse. Sienna didn't have an answer for that. Callum Ashford was in hell. 3 years of experimental treatment. Surgery. Recovery. Physical therapy so brutal it made his accident look gentle. His body being broken down and rebuilt at the cellular level. Dr. Rodriguez had warned him. The treatment was cutting edge. Dangerous. No guarantees. But there was a chance. A small, terrifying, beautiful chance. 16 months of surgery and initial recovery. 20 months of intensive therapy after that. Pushing his body past every limitation. Teaching nerve pathways to fire that hadn't worked in 8 years. And slowly, impossibly slowly, progress. Feeling returned. First just tingles. Then actual sensation. Then, month 32, he moved his toes for the first time since the accident. Dr. Rodriguez cried. Victoria cried. Hayes called it a miracle. But Callum just thought, Naomi should be here. Every breakthrough, every setback, every moment of progress, he wanted to share it with the woman who'd spent 5 years helping him survive. The woman who'd been gone for 3 years now. He'd tried not to think about her. Tried to move on. Patricia, the new nurse, was competent. Professional. But she wasn't Naomi. No one was Naomi. Hayes had encouraged him to date. You're getting better. Start living again. There are plenty of women who'd be interested. But Callum couldn't. Because every woman he met was measured against someone he couldn't have, and they all fell short. You need to let her go, Victoria told him one evening during month 35. He was walking with assistance now. Parallel bars, leg braces, someone supporting his weight. But walking. I have let her go, Callum said. She's been gone 3 years. Not physically. Emotionally. Victoria watched him work. You're still in love with her. That doesn't just turn off, Mother. I know. But darling, she moved closer. You're making incredible progress. In a few months, you might be walking independently. You could have your life back. Don't you want that? Not if she's not in it, Callum said honestly. Victoria's expression was complicated. Sadness. Resignation. Maybe understanding. She was good for you, Victoria admitted. Better than I wanted to see. And I think, she paused. I think if you'd been anyone else, if the circumstances had been different, you two could have been happy together. But we're not anyone else. No. You're a billionaire heir. She's a nurse. The power dynamics, the society expectations. Victoria shook her head. It was never going to work. You're probably right, Callum agreed. But tell that to my heart. Callum took his first unassisted steps. Just 5 steps. From his wheelchair to the parallel bars. But unassisted. No braces. No support. Just his legs, working like they were supposed to. Dr. Rodriguez documented everything. This is remarkable. I need to call my team. But Callum was already reaching for his phone. He had Naomi's number still. Had never deleted it. Never called it in 3 years. His fingers hovered over her name. What would he even say? Hi, I know it's been 3 years, but I'm walking now. Want to try this impossible thing again? He couldn't do that to her. She'd built a life in Atlanta. Moved on. And he had no right to pull her back into his orbit just because he'd made medical progress. But God, he wanted to hear her voice. Who are you calling? Hayes asked, entering the therapy room. No one. Callum set down the phone. Just thinking. About Naomi? Is it that obvious? You think about her every day, Hayes said. Has for 3 years. So yeah, it's obvious. She's moved on. Have you asked her? What's the point? Hayes sat down. The point is that you've spent 3 years going through hell for a chance to walk again. And I think you did it for her. So she could see you as a man, not a patient. So the power dynamic would be different. Am I wrong? Callum didn't answer. Because Hayes wasn't wrong. Call her, Hayes said. Worst case, she's moved on and you get closure. Best case, he shrugged. Who knows? Maybe she's been waiting too. And if she hasn't, then you finally move on for real. Naomi, it's Callum. I know it's been 3 years. I hope you're doing well. I wanted you to know, I took the experimental treatment. It worked. I'm walking again. I thought you'd want to know. See. He stared at it for an hour. Then deleted it without sending. Because what was the point? Walking didn't change anything fundamental. She was still his ex-employee. He was still a billionaire. Society would still judge. His family would still have concerns. And most importantly, she'd left. Made the hard choice to build a life without him. He had no right to pull her back. Even if every cell in his body screamed that she should be here. That these first steps should have been into her arms. That every breakthrough meant nothing if he couldn't share it with her. I love you, he whispered to his empty room. And I'm letting you go. Naomi woke up gasping. Another dream. Always the same. Callum calling her name. Reaching for her. Her running but never getting closer. She checked her phone. 3 a.m. On impulse, stupid, dangerous impulse, she Googled his name. The search results made her breath stop. Miracle recovery. Ashford Air walks again after 8 years of paralysis. The article was from 6 months ago. She'd missed it. How had she missed it? She clicked through. Read every word. Experimental treatment. Stem cells. Nanotechnology. Brutal recovery. 41 months of treatment. And success. There were photos. Callum standing. Walking with assistance. Looking older, stronger, different but somehow exactly the same. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. Tears streamed down her face. Pride. Joy. And underneath, grief. Because she should have been there. Should have been part of that journey. Should have been the one celebrating with him. But she'd left. Made the impossible choice. And he'd gone through all of that without her. Her phone was in her hand. His number still saved. She could call. Text. Congratulate him. But 3 years of silence stretched between them. What would she even say? Instead, she sat in her dark apartment, crying for the man she'd loved and lost, and tried to be happy that he'd gotten his miracle. Even if she wasn't part of it. So here's what you don't know yet. That moment in the therapy room 3 months ago, when Callum walked into Naomi's arms and confessed he'd done it all for her, that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning. Naomi had left the therapy room. Needed space. Time to think. But running away wasn't actually an option this time. Because she'd quit her Atlanta job 2 weeks earlier. Not to come back to Charleston. Not initially. She'd just been restless. 37 years old. 3 years of building a life that felt like a pale imitation of the one she'd left. 3 years of pretending she was over someone she'd never be over. When Victoria Ashford had called, yes, Victoria, and told her about the experimental treatment, about Callum's progress, about how he'd been asking for her, Naomi had said no immediately. I can't come back, she'd told Victoria. That chapter is closed. I'm not asking you to come back as his nurse, Victoria had said carefully. I'm asking you to be here as his friend. For his first steps. Because I think he needs to see you. And I think, she'd paused. I think you need to see him too. Why are you doing this? You never wanted us together. I was wrong, Victoria had admitted. I spent 3 years watching my son achieve the impossible, and I realized, he did it for you. Every brutal day of recovery. Every moment he wanted to quit. He was doing it to be worthy of you. And keeping you apart because of power dynamics and society expectations seems ridiculous when he literally learned to walk again out of love. So Naomi had come. Just for the day. Just to see. And then he'd walked into her arms and everything had shattered and rebuilt simultaneously. Naomi sat in the Ashford Estate Gardens, the same place where, 6 years ago, Callum had first confessed he loved her. 3 months since she'd watched him walk. 3 months of conversations that started awkward and became easier. 3 months of figuring out who they were now. After everything. You're hiding, Callum's voice came from behind her. She turned. He was walking independently now. Still careful. Still building strength. But walking. The sight still made her chest tight. I'm thinking, she corrected. About whether I'm an idiot for being here. Callum sat beside her on the bench. Close enough to touch. Are you? Probably. She looked at him. 3 years ago, I left because loving you was impossible. Now I'm back, and nothing fundamental has changed. You're still you. I'm still me. The world is still the world. Everything has changed, Callum argued gently. I'm not your patient anymore. You're not my employee. The power dynamic is gone. Your mother still looks at me like I'm staff. My mother invited you here. She's trying. Society still whispers. Let them. Callum reached for her hand. She let him take it. Naomi, I spent 8 years paralyzed. 3 of those years without you. Do you honestly think I care what Charleston society whispers? Your company cares. The board. Your legacy. My legacy is that I went through hell and came out the other side. And the woman I love was the reason I fought at all. His voice was steady, clear. I'm done hiding. Done pretending. Done letting other people's opinions dictate my life. It's not that simple. It is that simple. He turned to face her fully. I love you. You love me. Everything else is just logistics. Logistics like where I'd live, what I'd do. I'm not going back to being your nurse. I don't want you to be my nurse, Callum said. I want you to be my partner. My equal. The person I build a life with. And what does that look like? I don't know yet, he admitted. But we figure it out together. Maybe you go back to nursing, at a hospital, not private care. Maybe you do something completely different. Maybe we travel. Maybe we stay in Charleston. Maybe we move to Atlanta. I don't care where we are or what we're doing as long as we're together. Naomi wanted to believe it could be that easy. Your family supports us. Hayes has been in my ear for 3 years telling me to find you. My mother literally called you and asked you to come back. They're on board, Naomi. And when the novelty wears off, When people start asking questions. When they reduce me to the nurse who. Then I'll tell them the truth, Callum interrupted. That you're the woman who saved my life in every way that matters. That you're brilliant and kind and stronger than anyone I've ever met. That I'm the lucky one. Tears filled her eyes. I don't want to mess this up, she whispered. We get one shot. If we try this and it doesn't work, then we'll have tried, Callum said. That's more than we've had for 8 years. Naomi, I've spent 8 years in different kinds of paralysis. Physical for 5 years. Emotional for the last 3 without you. I don't want to be paralyzed anymore. I want to move forward. With you. I'm scared. Me too. He smiled. The real smile. The one she'd spent 5 years earning and 3 years missing. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. She looked at their joined hands. His pale skin against her brown. The physical representation of everything complicated and beautiful between them. Okay, she said finally. Okay. Okay, let's try. Let's figure out the logistics. Let's ignore society and your mother's friends and everyone who'll have opinions. Let's just, she laughed through tears. Let's just try. Callum's expression was pure joy. Yeah. Yeah. He kissed her. Finally. After 8 years. After 3,000 days of wanting and not having. After every impossible obstacle and barrier and reason why they couldn't. He kissed her. And it felt like coming home. The Ashford estate was hosting a party. Not for business. Not for society. For Callum and Naomi's engagement. Yes, engagement. Because once they decided to try, once they'd stopped fighting the inevitable, everything else had fallen into place with surprising ease. Naomi had taken a position at MUSC Medical Center, Assistant Director of Nursing. Her own career. Her own accomplishments. Nothing to do with Callum except that she loved him. They'd gone public slowly. Started with family. Then close friends. Then gradually, the rest of Charleston society. There had been whispers. Of course there had been. But they'd faced them together. And somewhere along the way, Naomi had stopped being the nurse and started being Callum Ashford's fiancée. Then just Naomi. A person in her own right. You look happy, Sienna said. She'd flown in from Atlanta for the party. Like, genuinely happy. It's weird seeing you smile like that. I am happy, Naomi admitted. Terrifyingly happy. You deserve it, babe. Sienna hugged her. After everything, you both deserve it. Across the room, Callum was talking to Hayes and some board members. He caught Naomi's eye and smiled. That smile that was just for her. 8 years. 8 impossible years of loving someone she thought she could never have. And now, penny for your thoughts? Callum appeared beside her, slipping an arm around her waist. Easy. Natural. Like he'd been doing it forever. Just thinking about 8 years ago, Naomi said. When I drove up to this house for the first time. Terrified. Desperate. Thinking it was just a job. And now. Now I know it was everything, she said simply. Callum pulled her closer. I have something for you. You already gave me a ring. Something else. He handed her a small wrapped box. Inside was a key. To. Naomi asked. The house on Sullivan's Island. The beach house. I bought it. For us. So we have somewhere that's just ours. Where we can escape when the mansion gets too much. Where we can start our own traditions. Naomi's throat tightened. Callum. You gave me 8 years, he said quietly. 5 years of fighting to live. 3 years of fighting to walk. I want to give you the rest of my life. Starting now. Starting with a home that's ours, not my family's. Where we write our own story. She kissed him. Right there in the middle of the party. In front of his mother and brother and Charleston society and everyone. Because she'd spent 8 years hiding. 8 years of professional distance and impossible love. She was done hiding. "I love you," she said against his lips. "I've loved you since year 2. Maybe since day 1. "I know," Callum said, smiling. "I've been paying attention." They stood on the mansion's terrace, watching Charleston's waterfront sparkle in the distance. "Do you ever think about how differently things could have gone?" Naomi asked. "If I'd quit after 6 months like the others? If you'd given up instead of fighting? If we'd never been honest about how we felt?" "Every day," Callum admitted. "And I'm grateful we didn't take any of those paths. Even the hard parts. Especially the hard parts." He pulled her against him. "The hard parts taught us what we were made of. And they taught me that you're worth fighting for. Even when the odds are impossible." "The odds were impossible," Naomi agreed. Paralyzed billionaire falls for his nurse? Nurse loves him back? They somehow navigate power dynamics, society expectations, 3 years apart, experimental treatment, and actually end up together? That doesn't happen in real life. And yet, Callum gestured to them. Together. Engaged. Happy. And yet, Naomi echoed. "So what do you think?" Callum asked. "Was it worth it? 8 years of impossible." Naomi looked up at him. At the man who'd gone from wanting to die to fighting to live. At the blue eyes that still saw her completely. At the person who'd become her best friend, her love, her future. "Every single day," she said. 8 years of impossible was worth it for this moment right here. "Good." Callum kissed her forehead. "Because I plan to give you about 60 more years. If that's okay with you." 60 years sounds perfect. They stood there, wrapped in each other, watching Charleston sparkle. Two people who should never have worked. But did. Because sometimes impossible just means not yet. And sometimes love is patient enough to wait. Thank you so much for watching this incredible love story. If you made it to the end, you're absolutely amazing. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below. Where are you watching from? Team, they should have been together from day 1, or team, the wait made it better. Have you ever loved someone you thought was impossible? Drop your thoughts, your country, your own love stories. We read every single comment and love hearing from you. See you in the next story. Red Heart.